Hi everybody, sorry for the dark video. Going to the office pretty early this morning, so don't expect me to be viewing my camera straight on for very many times, not that I do anyways. I want to talk about triggering. What are triggers, how they form and develop, and why. Many of us who have left a toxic relationship or are still in a toxic relationship with somebody like a narcissist, we develop something which is called triggers. And what a trigger simply is it's just something that really just pisses you off, makes you fly off the handle and lose your cool. Usually it's more of a defensive posturing than offensive, right? I mean, that's why it's called a trigger, because you're fine, you're sitting there minding your business, eating your ice cream cone, and now all of a sudden you want to chew somebody's face off because of what they said. That's trigger. You go from something nice, peaceful, and pleasant to something that is relatively carnivorous. So that's the behavior. It causes you to fly off the handle. It doesn't matter what your state of mind is, and I think that's key there. From whatever state of mind it is that you're in, a trigger will successfully turn you into a face-chewing animal. So that's what a trigger is. And the way they develop, a lot of times they're cultivated by a narcissist. So you go into the narcissistic relationship never having these triggers before, and now that you're out of it, you got all these triggers that piss you the fuck off and make you fly off the handle. And you never had those before, and the problem now is you're now entering into new relationships with these triggers. And the bad thing about this, besides the obvious, but one of the things that really messes with you further is the fact when your triggers carry into new relationships and you hear your new significant other say some of the same things your ex said, or complain about some of the same things your ex said, or maybe not even a complaint. They may even say, there's no reason for you to be so defensive about blank, right? Well, that's something you heard to the end of the earth with your narc, and so then you're thinking, oh my God, not again. So maybe there really is something wrong with me. Maybe it is me. Maybe I'm the narcissist. I see that question a lot. No, you're not the narcissist. You now have triggers that were cultivated and developed that you now need to address, identify, and get rid of. Because they're going to be there until you actively address them and actively work on removing them. Otherwise, they stay. And it's because it's a voluntary change on your part. You may not realize it, but it's a voluntary change, because you reach a certain point after the love bombing phase of an abusive relationship. After the love bombing comes the devaluation. You're no longer the perfect unicorn. You're now the perfect unicorn with a little extra padding on the hips. You're the unicorn with a bitchy attitude. You're not that same perfect unicorn. And as they slowly change their perception of you, and they slowly change your self-image, you begin to develop triggers as a means of defending yourself intellectually and emotionally. So those changes come about because you have changed. Whether you realize it or not, subconsciously, you've done it yourself to help you somewhat maintain your sanity and to fend off attacks. So you've been led into creating these defensive mechanisms. So once you know that and realize that, triggers are actually pretty easy to get rid of. You just tell yourself, for one, you've got to know they're there. And you have to understand that when you get pissed off, those feelings are not your own. Those feelings were put there by somebody else. It's a bit of a weird concept, but yes, when you're an empath, and you have a certain emotional experience, you feel the emotions of others, but also because a trigger was planted there and cultivated by a narcissist, those emotions that correspond with those triggers are not yours. Those aren't yours. Those are feelings planted by the narcissist. So once you recognize that and you realize, you know what, I was never an angry person until Bob came along. I was never an angry person until now. Now I'm pissed off. That's not you being pissed off. That's you. That's Bob planting that in you. And so now you recognize that most of the time when you get angry, that's not you. That's Bob. That's the legacy of Bob. And you're saying, you know, I got to do better. And you know, there's probably thousands, millions types of triggers. I can't even begin. I can tell you one of my triggers is I'm also ADHD. I have been my entire life. There are things that come very easily for me. I'm a big complex picture kind of guy, so I'm able to very quickly visualize, put together, and design something that's very large and complicated. But if I get bogged down into the nitty-gritty small details, I shut down. Laundry is one of my biggest challenges. Cleaning up around the house is a huge challenge because it is a long, mundane, boring, uninteresting task. My brain is searching for something stimulating to do. It's very difficult. So when somebody comes on the attack because of my ADHD, I immediately get defensive. And this is because I spent 5 years having to actively defend myself against constant attacks. And saying, you know, minority would be like, you're highly smart, highly intelligent, but my God, you're an idiot whenever it comes to common sense. You have no common sense whatsoever. Stop being so stupid. And having to hear that from somebody over time, you know, well, it does something to you. And, you know, that trigger's still there. And, you know, I try to work on it, but, you know, I'm getting there. So how do I respond now? I say, for somebody who doesn't understand a thing about ADHD, you sure are quick to judge. You know, I have a different channel besides this one related to ADHD. I don't really spend a whole lot of time on it. As a matter of fact, it's been quite a while. But I have a channel on YouTube with a playlist, and the playlist in less than an hour will fully explain ADHD, all of the different subtypes of ADHD. It shows brain scans and of all of the different, there's 5 subtypes. And so for each subtype, I've made sure to go through and make sure there's resources that explain each subtype, that it shows the neuroscience behind each subtype. It shows brain scans of each subtype in action. And then it talks about available treatment methods, both with traditional pharmaceuticals and with non-traditional herbal remedies. So I have that playlist. So anytime my ADHD has an impact in my life, I send that playlist to somebody and say, here, this will help you better understand. But then if the problems persist and continue, then instead of getting mad and getting defensive, I say, did you watch the playlist I sent? No. Well, so here we are again. You know, and I leave it at that. So when you have a trigger, you have to take inventory of all these things that piss you off. You have to construct an easily delivered solution for that problem, and then deliver it. And when you do that, then you're good. Because what you've now done is you've now created an inventory of anti-trigger resources, you know? So, you know, I can't really speak about anybody else's triggers. I can just tell you that that's what I've done. I would love to hear from people about how they've identified and managed their triggers. So yeah, that's pretty much what a trigger is. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else worth mentioning. I think that's about all I got on this one. I can always release another video later. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, or share. If I've left anything out, if you've got any kind of input or tips or advice for people, by all means leave them in the comments. I always love to hear from people. It makes me feel like I'm not a crazy guy shouting at the phone in my car. So hope to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next video.